Roger Wallace, University of Texas Color Analyst. Football tonight, Ohio State, Texas, and AT&T Stadium in Arlington. My goodness, this is a showdown collision course. Roger, how would you compare? Texas is a part of big games. They've had Georgia twice. But how would you compare this game, the build-up to this game, since they last played?
Yeah, it's been interesting, David. This whole playoff, I think we're all kind of trying to figure out the rhythm to it because it's so different. But it feels strange because, there's no camp, there's no students on campus, there's none of that energy at UT, and it's just, one game to the next game. And so it's been a little bit different. It's more like the buildup is right before the game, not the slow buildup. And obviously everybody had to catch their breath after that Arizona State game. And then it's, you're still coming off the holiday. But, clearly this program feels like this is where they should be. But still, you have to really appreciate the run that they've made to get to the Final Four and beat a good Clemson team, even though they looked like they were going to handle them easily and it got dicey. And then obviously we know what happened with Arizona State. But now, maybe the best roster in college football from the start of the season is who they're facing tonight.
So this is my theory, and I think some other people have felt this way. When Texas was really good, they would still come up with ways to kind of have a chip on their shoulder, as if, for example, of course, 05 USC, the unbeatable team that, would never lose a game, and all the rock stars, and we know what happened. And I'm not trying to compare this to that. But even when Texas struggled throughout most of the time, at the end of Mac Brown, Charlie Strong, Tom Herman, with an occasional year or two, it seems like they're pretty good about creating a chip us against the world mentality. Have you seen that this week?
Get ready for epic savings at Best Buy. Right now, you can save up to $700 on select Alienware and Dell gaming products. Perfect for leveling up your gaming experience. Plus, grab the latest Android Google Pixel at an unbeatable price. Don't miss these incredible deals. Shop now at bestbuy.com and upgrade your tech today.
Well, yeah, Sark brought up a couple of times that, clearly you use the term massive underdog, and it's a 6-point line. But I think people think because of the way Texas beat Arizona State and the way Ohio State has just run roughshod over Tennessee and then Oregon, that has set the stage for people think this could get away from Texas. So sure, he's going to use all that. The fact that kind of what I said earlier, that many people thought before the season, Ohio State had the best roster in the country, top to bottom, and now they're really playing like that. So, yeah, they're using all that. And the fact that it's in North Texas, that's cool. But, David, as well as I do, Ohio State's going to have their share of fans inside AT&T tonight. It's not going to feel like a Texas home game, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, Ohio State and Texas, those are two programs, and there's maybe 3 to 5 others that when they look across the table at each other, there are two superpowers, right, with the tradition, the Heismans, the titles, and all of that involved, the power, the clout.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of that uniform thing, right, David? There's certain uniforms you look at and you just kind of think, okay, that's kind of college football royalty. Now, granted, Texas has not been part of that, prior to last year for a long time. But in the grand scheme of things, for old guys like us, yes, for sure, this is one of those marquee matchups. Kind of like last night, that was more of a 70s game, I think, when what you're talking about with Notre Dame, Penn State, than now, where they have crazy athletes on both sides of the ball and they're not just, slogging it out. But, yeah, I mean, the college football playoffs got to love now this Final Three, because you're going to get some kind of championship matchup, either Texas and Notre Dame or Ohio State and Notre Dame, more of a regional thing with Ohio State and Notre Dame. I get it. But it's pretty good. And for Texas, for Sark to get them back here where, they were supposed to be here, but you know how that goes. There's no guarantees that you're going to do what you're supposed to do. So, this is a big step. And, it's a transition time at UT. A new president's coming in. We're having to deal with whispers of Sark's future. And so obviously tonight could be a very interesting and a swing night one way or another for this program.
There are times Texas has just run through people with the offense, with the running back, with Whit Weisner, who we covered when he was at Conley before he moved to DeSoto, a phenomenal talent. And then, of course, Jaden Blue has had issues with fumbles, but still another explosive back. They could not run the ball against Arizona State. Not a chance. They never did. What are your thoughts about what is that tonight against Ohio State, and how important is it to at least establish something in the run game?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be tougher if you just go by the paper. 92 yards a game is what Ohio State's giving it. My guess is Sark's going to come out with some kind of script, a Bill Walsh script, where he's going to get Quinn Ewers in rhythm, and they've got to get the pass game going to the point where then, the play action works and the run game can sting him a little bit. But I just think it's not realistic to think they're going to be able to push Ohio State around consistently. Maybe they pop one. They had the big running numbers against Clemson, but Blue ran for 77 on one play. Right. So that changes things a little bit. But I think this has got to be a Quinn Ewers night against this Ohio State defense, unless they just really get them on their heels.
And how much do you feel how Ewers played in that game against Arizona State helps him entering this game with Ohio State? We know he's thrown a hickey up on occasion, but man, he was nuts, nails, bolts, whatever you want to call it, at the end against Arizona State.
Yeah, how about his last 3 touches? Think about that. 4th and 13, he throws the touchdown to Golden over the top. Next play is next possession, he throws that seam touchdown to Gunnar Helm, and then he gets the 2-point conversion to Golden. So his last 3 throws were pretty impressive under some pretty high stakes. But yeah, he's got a tendency, and this Ohio State defense is going to make life tough on him, no doubt. That front 7. But I think maybe Texas can do the same to Will Howard. Will Howard,
yep.
He gets hit once or twice by Texas, and maybe some of those demons come back in his head about the last 4 times that he faced the Longhorns. So it'll be interesting to see who can strike first. And if Texas, I think the big trouble for Texas, if they get some separation, if Ohio State gets a little separation, then I think things could really go south for Texas if they can't do something offensively to keep this thing close.
Last thing I think about with Will Howard in Texas was the game in Austin in 23, when K-State was about to maybe sever their chance to play in the college football playoff. Remember that game, I believe, went into overtime, and it just seemed like Will Howard in that last possession with Tavondre Sweat, Murphy, or whatever, it just seemed like he just panicked in that moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to put a little on Chris Kleiman. He goes for the touchdown. He goes for the win. They could kick the field goal and go, double overtime. Texas only kicked the field goal, and then they run that 4th down play, and it was something where Jahdae Barron, there's a great angle of it from the backside, and you can see Jahdae Barron. He was playing the star, and he read Howard, and he knew the play. And then, Howard was in panic mode when the pocket collapsed. Barron Sorrell, I think, was in on it as well. But yeah, there are a lot of moments like that, David, over that year and this year where things could have collapsed for Texas if they don't get the 4th down stop against Clemson. Then who knows how that game goes? There was plenty of time, and all of a sudden momentum swings. And ASU obviously was, but ASU was such a crazy game because Scadaboo was such a unicorn. In that second half.
Yeah, it looked like he was going to end up with.
He audibilized on a halfback pass, for goodness sakes.
It was like he's going to have 22 carries for 44 yards and nothing, and the next thing you know, and that was the thing. I didn't think anyone could really run on Texas. We obviously know that Ohio State's got a great run game too with their weapons, Henderson and Moore. Was that surprising for you? Because Arizona State did not panic. Now, they had the flea flicker, but it's not like they panicked when they couldn't run the ball early. They stayed patient, and it paid off, and they wore down that defense in the end.
Yeah, and he's the kind of guy, he's just going to, inevitably, he's going to pop one. And I think going back to Texas, I think that's what they're kind of banking on with Blue and Wisner to a certain degree is maybe you don't run it consistently, but if you can just pop a couple – to get some big plays, but then they run the fake punt, and that they had to do some things like that, or it was going to get away from them, and it worked, and then things got a little crazy at the end, but yeah, and Henderson and Judkins are different than Scadaboo, but some of their differences is more dangerous because of how explosive they are, but that dude is as tough as it gets, and he kind of willed Arizona State into having a chance to win that ball game, I think.
What's it been like there in Arlington? I know that the weather has been a big topic, and there's been some snow, and it looks like it's not going to be nearly as what everyone thought. Game time just around the corner. What's it been like, and what's been kind of the mood in Arlington?
It's funny, and it goes back to what I said earlier. I think they're ready to play again.
Yeah.
I think even though, it's just a little bit more than a regular week, but, they don't have a lot of media obligations. They do a lot of virtual stuff before they get here. And then one thing, but I think they feel like they've been in and out of road trips now since late November, when you take into consideration the SEC championship game, and then, coming home for Clemson, obviously, but then going back to Atlanta. And now here, even though this is just up the road, it's a road trip. It's the same amount of time. It's being away. It's being in a hotel. So it's so different than the bowl season. And I was talking to a lot of people about, I can't imagine doing a week leading up to these games like we used to do for bowl games.
Oh, yeah.
Because it just feels like it's forever in between games. And they played, on New Year's Day. So 9 days ago they played, but it just feels like, I think everybody's got to get their feet under them on this playoff. And, think about the media trying to follow their teams around, like the Columbus media. They've been to the Rose Bowl, and now they're here. And if they win, they got to go to Atlanta and all that stuff. But it's been a little bit taxing.
I would say, and I'll close it out with this, and I have a question about Sark, but I would think that, we have had Baylor when they've had some teams like 2021, had that been a playoff type year, and it was, but as far as 12, we were at the Sugar Bowl, and it might have been something else before that, then the Big 12 championship game, of course, in Arlington. I can see where that is, one, budgetary-wise, something no one's ever really had to deal with before, and we talk about the attrition of the football team. Why has Sark been the one that put Texas back in a position to where they are compared to that decade or so of just kind of floundering?
Well, I think it's a combination. I think, first of all, what he knows offensively, and, he can work with quarterbacks and offense. But I think it's what he's learned both under Nick Saban and in the NFL, how to, put together an organization. And what a kind of perfect time to have that guy, the way college football has changed, into a mini professional organization where you have a staff now. People don't even realize how many people are on a football staff in a college football program right now, with the analysts and, the personnel. You've got a general manager. You've got scouting. You're going to have people in charge of, NIL money distribution and revenue sharing and things like that. So I think he's been kind of the perfect guy to take Texas into this new era of college football. And I think because of his background, he has appreciated his chance. And I think, he thinks about Nick Saban and Pete Carroll and what they did to him and wanting to follow in their footsteps, because he reminds every day of what they've meant to him and how different they are. And in the end, they end up in the same place. And he talks about consistency. And that kind of goes back to an NFL model, where you treat everybody like pros. And I think it's just worked. And then, he's a good coach, and he's hired good coaches, and he's gotten good players. I think he's done the portal in a way that's been a little bit different, where he plugs it.
Yep.
He's still got so many kids that he's developed, but he's had some important plugs, and he hasn't had to get on the quarterback merry-go-round in the portal. Doesn't look like he will next year, obviously. But then what happens? I mean, look at Ohio State. What happens with Will Howard? What happens with a lot of programs that have been Notre Dame's going to have to replace Riley Leonard probably. So, that's the thing that I just think he's been the right guy at the right time. And what a gamble it was, when they made that choice.
No question. Raj, I know you're busy as heck, buddy. Have a great broadcast tonight. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Always good to talk to you, David. Take care.
Roger Wallace, UT Radio on 365 Sports.